In the early 2000s, few movies captured the energy of New York nightlife quite Coyote Ugly. Released in 2000, the film follows a young aspiring songwriter who leaves her small town life behind to chase her dreams in the big city. But when reality proves much tougher than expected, she finds herself working at one of the wildest bars in New York, where bartenders dance on countertops, customers pack the building every night, and confidence is the key to survival. What starts as a desperate way to pay the bills soon becomes the journey that helps her discover who she really is. This is the Coyote Ugly recap. Before we begin, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. It costs free 99, it helps out the channel, and you'll have zero regrets doing it. So without further ado, on to our feature presentation. The movie begins in New Jersey and we're introduced to Violet Sanford, a young woman working at a local pizza shop while dreaming of something bigger. More than anything, Violet wants to leave her hometown behind and move to New York City to pursue her career as a singer-songwriter. The only problem is her father, Bill, who isn't exactly thrilled about the idea, worried about all the dangers that come when living in a big city. He constantly reminds his daughter of the violent crimes and bad news coming out of New York, hoping she'll reconsider.
4 people killed last night in New York. No reason at all. Police have no leads. Tragic.
But Violet refused to give up on her dream, and after some convincing, Bill finally gives her blessing to leave for New York City, with one condition. She has to come back home to New Jersey every Sunday. After arriving in New York, Violet gets to work on her dream by recording a demo tape. Unfortunately, the walls of her apartment are so thin and her neighbors are so loud that recording indoors is almost impossible, so she takes her keyboard and tape recorder outside to finish the demo herself. But making a demo is just half the battle. Getting someone in the music industry to actually listen to it is another story entirely. Violet spends her days pitching her songs to record labels only to be met with rejection after rejection. Feeling discouraged, she visits a local bar where she meets Kevin O'Donnell, a charming guy who claims to be a music scout looking for new artists. Thinking she may have finally caught her big break, Violet opens up to him, only to discover that Kevin was exaggerating. He's actually a cook at the bar. Embarrassed and feeling foolish, Violet storms out, but Kevin isn't ready to let her walk away and follows her home, hoping to convince her to give him one more chance. After getting nowhere with record deals, Violet decides to take matters into her own hands by performing at an open mic. Unfortunately, that plan crashes and burns almost immediately. The moment she steps on stage, the crowd's attention overwhelms her and her stage fright gets the best of her. As if the night couldn't get any worse, she returns home to find out that the apartment she's staying in has been burglarized. With her confidence shattered and her belongings stolen, it feels like New York is doing everything it can to send her back to New Jersey. But while eating at a diner, Violet notices 3 energetic women who seem to light up the entire room. Curious, she follows them and discovers they work at the famous bar called Coyote Ugly. At this point, she's not looking for a big break in the music industry anymore. She just needs a way to make some money. Violet tracks down the owner, Lil, and asks for a job. Seeing potential in her, Lil agrees to give her a shot. But first, she has to prove she can handle the chaos of the Coyote Ugly Saloon. Violet's first night at Coyote Ugly is a complete culture shock. The bar is loud, chaotic, and nothing like a normal bartending job. Lil even give her a new nickname, Jersey, though for the sake of this recap, we'll just keep calling her Violet. But unfortunately, Violet struggles with almost everything. She isn't nearly as outgoing as the other coyotes, and she can't seem to match their confidence or energy. By the end of the night, Lil tells her that she doesn't have what it takes and her audition is over. Defeated, Violet heads for the door, but before she leaves, she notices 2 customers on the verge of throwing punches. Thinking quickly, she steps in between them, calms the situation, and even convinces them to spend money buying drinks for the women instead of fighting. This gets Lil's attention. Violet may not know how to work the bar yet, but she clearly has natural instincts when it comes to handling people. As a result, Lil decides to give her a second chance. Still frustrated over their first meeting, Violet then heads over to Kevin's workplace to demand that he returns her demo tape. But to her surprise, Kevin admits that he actually listened to it and genuinely thinks that she has talent. Later, we're introduced to one of the bar's veteran coyotes, Cammy, who takes Violet under her wing. Knowing she'll need a complete image makeover if she wants to survive behind the bar, Cammy takes her shopping to find perfect outfits for her second audition. Violet's second audition doesn't go exactly as smoother than her first. She's still trying to figure out how the coyotes operate, and in the middle of the chaos, she accidentally sprays a fire marshal with water during an inspection. The stunt ends up costing Lil a $250 fine, and she's furious. Ready to cut her losses, Lil tells Violet that she's fired, unless she could somehow make that money back before the night is over. Just then, Violet spots Kevin sitting at the bar. Feeling completely overwhelmed, she opens up to him about everything that has gone wrong, but instead of giving up, she comes up with a clever idea. She turns Kevin into the night's grand prize, auctioning him off to a crowd for a date. The plan works perfectly. One winning bid is enough to cover the entire fine, earning Violet her place at the Coyote Ugly and proving to Lil that she can think on her own feet when the pressure is on. After the bar closes, Kevin jokingly says since she helped save their job, she owes him something in return. His price? 4 dates. As the two begin spending more time together, Violet reveals one of her biggest secrets. She suffers from severe stage fright. It's the reason she wants to become a songwriter instead of performing her own music. Seeing how much her fear is holding her back, Kevin offers to help her overcome it. Now officially one of the coyotes, Violet finally gets her first real night behind the bar. But as usual, things don't stay calm for long. A group of rowdy customers start harassing one of the bartenders, and the atmosphere quickly turns hostile. Trying to get the situation under control, Violet grabs a bucket of ice and throws it into the crowd, hoping to cool everyone down. Unfortunately, that only makes things worse. With the bar on the verge of erupting into chaos, Violet once again relies on her ability to think quickly under pressure. She grabs the microphone, climbs up on the bar, and begins singing One Way or Another. Almost instantly, the angry crowd forgets about the fighting and turns it into attention to the performance. For someone who suffered from crippling stage fright, it's a huge moment. Violet may not realize it yet, but she's just taking her first real steps towards becoming the performer she always wanted to be. As the night winds down, one customer in the crowd snaps a picture of Violet standing on top of the bar. It seems like an ordinary photograph at the time, but it ended up playing a much bigger role later on in the video. Even after Violet's performance at the bar, Kevin realized that her stage fright hasn't completely disappeared. In fact, she admits that fear only shows up when she's performing her own songs, which is exactly what's keeping her from chasing her dream. Determined to help, Kevin comes up with another unusual exercise. He fills a room with life-size cardboard cutouts of famous people, creating a fake audience for Violet to perform in front of. At first, she's just as nervous as ever, convinced that every pair of eyes is judging her. But Kevin reminds her that most of the fear exists in her own head. Little by little, Violet lets her guard down and begins to stop worrying about what other people think. By the end of the exercise, she's able to laugh at herself and embrace the vulnerability that comes with performing. One night, the Coyotes get a surprise visit from former bartender Zoe, who returns to the bar for a special appearance. Before long, she's back doing what she does best, joining the girls for another loud and unforgettable night at Coyote Ugly. Unfortunately for Violet, that same night takes a turn for the worse when her father unexpectedly shows up at the bar. After seeing his daughter dance on top of the counter alongside the other girls, wet, he's devastated. Without saying much, he simply turns around and leaves. As if the night wasn't bad enough, the photographer that taken during Violet's first performance at the bar finally resurfaced. It turns out that man in the crowd was a newspaper photographer, and the picture ended up on front page. Hoping to explain herself, Violet tries to explain to her father that the job isn't as scandalous as it looks. Damage has already been done. Feeling embarrassed and disappointed, he refused to listen and walk away. The next day, Violet tries calling him to make things right, but every attempt goes straight to voicemail, leaving a painful distance between father and daughter. The following night, Violet finally gets the opportunity she's been waiting for, a chance to perform one of her own songs at another club. She tells Lil that she needs to leave early, hoping she'll understand how important this is for her music career, but Lil refuses. The bar is packed, and with Violet becoming one of the Coyote Ugly's biggest attractions, she isn't about to let one of her best coyotes walk out in the middle of a busy night. Feeling trapped, Violet calls Kevin and tells him what's happening. Instead of calming the situation, Kevin gets frustrated and decides to show up at the bar himself. When he arrives, he sees one of the customers dancing with Violet after she had climbed onto the bar to work the crowd. Misreading the situation, Kevin loses his temper and attacks the man, causing a huge scene in the middle of the bar. Security quickly throws him out, and Violet rushes outside to confront him. The argument quickly spirals out of control, and the two decide to end their relationship. Lil witnesses the entire incident, and she's furious. One of the biggest rules at Coyote Ugly is no boyfriends allowed, and since Violet ignored that rule, Lil decides she had enough and fires her on the spot. At Gloria's wedding, Violet finally has a conversation with her dad. His issue was letting his daughter go. He also unveils that for the first time, he was ashamed of her. When she gets back to New York, she gets a phone call in the hospital that her dad was struck by a vehicle at his job. Fortunately, he only has a broken leg and bruises. She also tells him that she intends to move back in with him to help him recover. He then makes a confession that Violet's mother never had stage fright. He was the reason that she stopped singing.
Why'd she quit?
Because of me. Right after you were born, she told me she wanted to quit. And I let her.
After losing her job and her relationship, Violet decides it's time to focus on the thing that brought her to New York in the first place, her music. She discovers an upcoming songwriter showcase and decides to give her dream one last chance. Meanwhile, Lil eventually tracks Violet down and finds her working at another bar. Realizing she may have been too hard on her, Lil apologizes for everything that happened and offers her old job back at Coyote Ugly. But this time, Violet turns her offer down. She knows she can't hide behind the bar forever if she truly wants to make it as a songwriter. Not long after, Violet gets a phone call she's been waiting for. The Bowery Ballroom has heard her latest song and she wants her to perform it live on Sunday night. It's the biggest opportunity of her life. Word spreads quickly and the entire Coyote Ugly family decides to close the bar for the evening so they can support her. But as Violet gets closer to the venue, the same stage fright that has haunted her throughout the movie begins creeping back in. Overcome with fear, she literally turns around and goes home. That's when the two people who care about her most, her father and Gloria, steps in and reminds her how far she's come. With their encouragement, Violet finds the courage to walk through the doors and finally face the audience. As Violet steps onto the stage at the Bowery Ballroom, it looks like history is about to repeat itself. The crowd is waiting, the spotlight is on, and her stage fright starts creeping back in. Just when it seems like she's about to freeze, Kevin quietly shuts off the lights, giving Violet the moment she needs to calm herself down. Taking a deep breath, she finally begins to sing, and before long, she's completely in her element. The performance is a huge success, proving the shy girl from New Jersey has finally conquered the fear that has been holding her back all along. 3 months later, Violet's songwriting career is taking off. Her music catches the attention of leann, who records one of her songs, turning it into a massive hit. In real life, Can't Fight the Moonlight will become one of the signature songs of the early 2000s. The movie ends on a much lighter note, with life at the Coyote Ugly carrying on as usual, and Violet even auctioning off her own father to the crowd. Although I do have one question. Are we just going to ignore the fact that Coyote Ugly apparently let a 17-year-old leann hang out and perform at one of the rowdiest bars in New York? Then again, after everything we've seen in this movie, maybe that's the least unbelievable part. This was definitely a wild movie to get through. Normally I use this section to talk about the characters, but instead I want to leave you with 3 major takeaways from this movie. The first lesson is that you can achieve your dreams if fear controls you. From the very beginning, it's obvious that Violet has the talent to make it as a songwriter. The only thing truly standing in her way was herself. Her stage fright constantly held her back, and the movie shows that sometimes our biggest enemy isn't the world around us, it's our own fear. The second takeaway I had was growth often requires stepping outside of your comfort zone. Working at the Coyote Ugly is a complete culture shock for Violet, but it also was an experience needed that transformed her. The bar forces her to become more confident, more resilient, and more capable of commanding a room. And finally, failure is a necessary part of the journey. Violet gets rejected by record labels, bombs at open night, and even loses her job, but every setback ended up pushing her closer to where she needed to be. Just like the old man once said, a setback can set up for a major comeback. As for the movie itself, I thought the movie was just okay. It isn't the deepest film ever made, and parts of it definitely feels like a product of the early 2000s, but after breaking it down, I could appreciate the message it's trying to tell. Maybe my opinion on this movie will change over time. And that concludes the Coyote Ugly movie recap. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Please hype, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, as majority of you watching this video aren't subscribed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. The following was a jgtv production. Thanks for watching.
You gotta be careful when you pick fights.